Other than toxicity, deployment and disposal is also a major issue because solar cell technology, it is a very mature technology, and silicon solar cell technology is available in the market, and perovskite solar cell technology has a direct competition with that. We have gallium arsenide technology and CDTE. Gallium arsenide based cells are very good, their efficiency is highest, but because of several reasons they are not available in the market and not commercialized too much. Cadmium telluride is a commercialized technology, and it is also an ionic semiconductor based technology, but it also has some issues and is not available in the market. So this technology is direct, or I should say it is a parallel technology of silicon. In emerging photovoltaics, the dye synthesized solar cells and organic solar cells, they have some specific applications, like organic solar cell has flexible foldable kind of solar cells, and they are widely used in some specific regions, and dye synthesized solar cell have some other issues, and still research is going on. So perovskite solar cell also has a deployment and disposal issue because of the toxicity of lead, and if I should talk about the building integrated solar cells, then these building integrated solar cells are semi-transparent glasses which are the part of the building materials and as well solar cells. So for example, if we have some houses where these cells are the window glasses, then they are semi-transparent, so means some of the light may enter in the house and some of the light will be absorbed by the perovskite layer, and that layer will give the electricity. So that is also a good idea, and some of the big companies in United States, Australia and UK, they are actively working in this particular direction. And Henry Smith has a plan. He already announced in some of the conferences that this technology has a great promise of commercialization. So keeping in mind, I would like to say there are challenges like device stability under real operational conditions, the environmental impact of the modules with concern around PB and tin is still being debated, and efficiency loss when upscaling to large area devices and remaining gap in the fundamental material physics. So as I already mentioned in my lecture in the beginning, that device stability under real operational condition is always very important for any kind of photovoltaic cell, because we need to, for the commercialization point of view, we need to install the solar cells in every country, or I should say around the globe. So the weather condition of India is different, Australia, United States, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So we have different weather conditions. So device stability in all weathers, it is really very important for commercialization. Particularly if I say in India, if we want to put a panel in Bangalore or in Chennai, then there is a humidity, different humidity level. So in that humidity level, the operational conditions will be definitely different. So these devices are very sensitive to humidity and oxygen. So we have to keep in mind how to make the stable devices. And the other issue which is already discussed, environmental impact of the modules with concerned which concerns lead and tin, because lead is very toxic and tin is little less toxic. So people are looking for tin and bismuth for the replacement of lead, but tin has some issues, like it has +2 and +4 states, and some materials are not very stable, and bismuth also has some issue. So this is a really very important. But these challenges give a new direction to the new faculty members who are attending or participating in this refresher course, because if you have challenge, then you can take that challenge and you can write a project on that, and if you can resolve the issue, then it will be a very good contribution to the community. So efficiency loss when upscaling to large area devices, it is again another important challenge, because small area device fabrication conditions and large area panel fabrication, or its upscaling, it is in perovskites is quite different. Because if I should say in case of silicon or in case of organic or polymer solar cell, then large uniform film can be fabricated with polymers. But here, because this is a crystalline film, and I should say polycrystalline film, so that somewhere the grains are bigger, somewhere grains are smaller. So a uniform distribution of grain on a, I should say, 1 feet by 1 feet or 6 inch by 6 inch area, it is a really challenge. Right now people are fabricating like smaller devices, and for example, if in my papers which I discussed in my previous slides, we are fabricating only 2 millimeter by 2 millimeter devices. So as we go to the higher sizes like 1 inch by 1 inch or 4 inch by 4 inch size, then we observe that the uniformity of the thin film and maintaining its thickness and some other important parameters which are I should say the device engineering parameters, it needs some work, and some fundamental material physics, chemistry and engineering is really unexplored right now. So it need some basic understanding. So this is also an opportunity to the young faculty members, because we can do some device physics here, like as I already mentioned, because it is an ionic semiconductor. In ionic semiconductor, this methyl ammonium, I should say, it is in the cage of the octahedra, and it is vibrating. So to write the physics of these phonons and the lattice vibrations, I should say, and the role of these phonon here in the device, it is also a very good research area for newcomers. So means there are challenges, there are issues, but there are opportunities to work. Okay, so let me give some example of some ideas by the scientific community discussed in their papers, like in the stability, the even small difference in the arrangement of atoms affect stability. For example, cesium ion or organic groups doping in crystal improve the stability of ABX3 structure. So in this direction, several research papers and patents are published in last few years, and it has been observed that if an amount of cesium ion or any organic molecule is fitted in this ABX3 structure, then the crystal are more stable, means the perovskite structure and the crystal behavior is better here. And another thing is varying the X site. One group has found that using a small amount of bromide rather than large iodides improve the stability. So here, as I already discussed in my previous slides, in ABX3 structure, this X is halide, and I methyl ammonium lead iodide, it is a very popular material for the fabrication of perovskites. But if I or some alteration or combination of iodide and bromide is taken, then there is an improvement in the stability. Not only stability, but also the device performance. So physicist and chemist has to look the physics, device physics and device chemistry behind this incorporation. It is still unexplored. So this is also an opportunity. Other than that, film quality and alternative designs. So although the perovskites are less sensitive to impurity than are expensive crystalline semiconductors such as gallium arsenide, but making perovskite film with larger crystals and fewer grain boundaries is a priority, since moisture and ion defects travel through gaps between crystal grains. Actually, in most of the textbooks, we studied that uh, the impurity hampered the charge transport and other important properties of semiconductors like gallium arsenide, because gallium arsenide based solar cell has the highest efficiency at this time. And so I compared with gallium arsenide, not the silicon one. But we also observed here the perovskites with impurities, because as I already discussed here, they are ABX3 structure, and it has been observed that smaller grain size based solar cells, it is showing a good performance, not bad, even more than 20% efficiency, but it hamper the performance of the device in such a way, because it affects the stability again, because those defects are the path for the travel of ions, or I should say some oxygen moisture molecules. So this is a means film quality is an important thing here also. And alternative designs, if I talk about the alternative designs, so some exotic forms of perovskites have appealing experiments and appealing electronic and optical properties in theory, and experiments are needed that focus on enhancing the lifetime of charge carriers, reducing defects, and solving the processing issues. So we have devices in normal architecture as well as in inverted architecture right now. In normal architecture, what we used to do in the mesoporous design, we have FTO coated glass substrate, or there is a transparent conducting electrode, and then TiO2 mesoporous layer, and then photoactive layer, and then another charge transport layer, and then another electrode. So in this structure, this is the normal structure. So here in this structure we have good efficiency and good stability, but it is quite bulky device, because in the mesoporous structure we have thick layer of TiO2. And so in this particular design, people are thinking for a planar photovoltaic device. In the planar one, but there is a thin layer of TiO2, it is not a mesoporous layer, and it is widely reported also. And then there is a perovskite layer, and then some polymer like P3ST, as I discussed in my results. So planar structure, it is also in the normal one, but it is a planar one, means we don't have the mesoporous structure. So device architecture or design is really important, because if we have this kind of planar structure, then we have a good opportunity of fabrication of large area and roll-to-roll devices. Other than this, we also have inverted architecture. In the inverted architecture, we have like ITO coated glass or FTO coated glass, then this is a transparent conducting electrode, and then we have like PDOT PSS kind of polymer, and after that we have perovskite, and then we have PCBM, which is a molecule for the charge transport, and then another electrode. So the difference in between these two device architecture, normal device architecture and inverted one, the difference is means we have collection of charge carriers. In first one we have collection of electron at the transparent electrode, and in another one we have collection of hole at the electrode, transparent electrode. So these device architectures are available, and still the scientific community is thinking for new designs, better designs, for better charge carrier, better removal of defects, and solving the processing issues. So this is also an area of research. If some is from the physics and engineering background, then he can work on this particular area, because here there is an opportunity of making new designs and doing some device engineering. Well, so the conducting layer and interface. So as I already discussed here, stopping the movement of crystal defects through the conducting layer or cross the interface with the perovskite film can also improve the stability. So in these devices, interface physics is also very important, because when we shine the light, and it is not a single junction device, we have at least 3 to 4 layers there in between the electrodes. So in we sandwiched 3 layers, 3 thin films in between 2 conducting electrodes. So there are some interfaces like electrode and electron transport layer, and then perovskite electron transport layer, then perovskite hole transport layer, and then electrode and hole transport layer. So there are 3-4 layers, so there are 3-4 interfaces. And when we shine the light to the perovskite layer, then what exactly happens? There is a formation of charge carrier. So these charge carriers has to be moved or in the perovskite material, and in this perovskite material there should be ideally the electron and hole mobility should be equal, but it will never happen for a single material, because electron is more mobile, so sometimes electron mobility is quite little higher, hole mobility is lower. So electron can reach to the interface and hole in between. So we have these hole and electron transport layer to optimize the movement of these electron and holes and to extract these electron and holes efficiently. So the interfaces are very important. If there is a resistance, I should say, in a layman language, at the interface, then it will definitely generate some resistive heating, and that resistive heating will create heat energy in the perovskite, and it will degrade the perovskite layer. So interface physics, interface engineering, and the measurement of charge carriers and the carrier dynamics is very important here, and it is a good opportunity again for the physicist to understand this for the better devices. Now let me come to the another important aspect. Since we have everything what is possible, best possible with us, then still there is a requirement of encapsulation of these solar cells. We could do our best, but again there is a possibility of effect of humidity and oxygen for interaction with the device. So what is necessity? The effect of humidity and O2, it can be cut by encasing devices in an inert environment. So when we fabricate the device, then we can fabricate these devices in an inert environment, like in glove box, where the H2O level is less than 0.5 ppm, and oxygen also it is less than 0.5 ppm. So means there is a negligible amount of oxygen and water vapor in the glove box. So we can seal these devices in inert environment, and this process, encapsulation, is already available because the organic solar cells or plastic solar cells, they are also very sensitive to humidity and oxygen. So for the industrial encapsulation techniques, for organics, electronics should be applicable to perovskite with some modifications. Like in organic electronics or organic solar cells or LEDs encapsulation, we used UV epoxy. So we have the device, then we cover it by some case, and then by UV sealant we can seal it. For UV curing, then we have to shine the UV to the device. But here there is an issue, because these devices, perovskite solar cells, these are very sensitive to UV light. So certainly we need some modifications, and these modifications are people are doing, and some of the groups, they are sealing the devices or doing the encapsulation, and successful encapsulation, and right now we have good devices, efficient devices with good stability. Okay, so let me come to the conclusion here. So I discussed the solution processed perovskite solar cells in detail. I started the introduction, scientific motivation, and the status of photovoltaic, different types or different generation of photovoltaics internationally, and the emerging photovoltaics is very promising for next generation photovoltaic devices. In emerging photovoltaics, as I discussed, there are some organic solar cell, dye synthesized solar cells, quantum dot solar cells, and perovskite solar cells. These are the emerging solar cells. So in all these emerging solar cells, this perovskite solar cell has a great future and great promise for next generation solar cell technology. So despite the constraints of morphology and transport discussed in this presentation, the low cost of solution processed and the impressive increase in efficiency over the last few years suggest bright prospect of solution processed perovskite solar cells in applications like wearable and building integrated perovskites. Because we can fabricate these devices on flexible foldable substrates also. And right now, I should say the most important project in the perovskite solar cells or perovskite photovoltaics is to fabricate a lead-free perovskite on flexible substrates. Because the flexible substrate based perovskite will revolutionize the photovoltaic technology in the coming time, and it will give a hybrid feeling of hybrid perovskite solar cells. And the building integrated perovskite, it is also very important and it has a very bright future. So with this conclusion, we can say this is a very, very important research area, and the young faculty members may write some projects on this particular area, and we have good facilities in India in several research laboratories. So some of the faculty members may visit those institutions like Indian Institute of Science. There is a nano center there, and in IIT Kanpur there is a flexible center where flexible and these devices can be fabricated in inert environment. And there is one more center with Professor Dinesh Kabra and his colleagues. It is in IIT Bombay. So, and in National Physical Laboratory also with Dr. Pankaj Kumar and some other scientists are working very actively, where they are fabricating these devices in inert environment, and some demonstrated some working devices with some good efficiency and large area devices also. So there is an opportunity to the young faculty member to join the hands with these groups, or they may write some their individual projects for theory and experimental understanding of these devices, and demonstrate some better device or solve some of the issues we have discussed today. So new design of molecule and devices are very important for the development of perovskite solar cell. So this is also a very, very rich field for this particular technology, and I hope this lecture will be very, very beneficial to all of you, and I congratulate to all the participants who are attending this refresher course. Thank you very much.